The leaders of the three biggest North American countries continue to meet and discuss relations on a variety of topics.
So here to tell us the latest developments on the new trade deal and how that works in line with immigration is our legal analyst, Vikas Bajaj. Good morning.
Oh, good morning to you. Thank you.
All right, well, let's tee it up this way by, first of all, talking about the differences with this new trade versus the one that we had in place.
Okay, in my book, two primary concentrations. One is really a consequence of what was already on the books. That is, a certain percentage of automobile parts and other large machinery have to be from the United States. It used to be at 60 or 65%. The United States, through President Trump and his administration, said we want 80+%. That didn't quite work out, so it's going to end up being around that mark of 60 to 65%. The more important thing, which is more of a sign of the times, is the technological issues and concentrations, such as the transferring of intellectual property. And we talk about this during the trade agreement and conflict that we have with China sort of taking in some of the technology, dispersing it, multiplying it, cloning it at a lower price, and then putting it out into the international market. Because so much of the equities we have now are technology-based, not only the apps we use and communicate with, which take in a tremendous amount of valuable information to corporations, but also the technology in cars, autonomous driving, things of that nature. It's going to spread throughout the world much faster than it is already. And so those are some of the protections that the United States of America wants before they enter into a trade agreement. We want to trade with you. We want to give you, Mexico, access to the biggest market in the world, the most lucrative one, which is our fine country. But there are some requirements attached, such as making sure we have protections for our workers and intellectual property.
Well, Canada's on board. U.S. is on board. Mexico's on board.
Yes.
But in order for the U.S. to be behind it, Congress has to vote on it. And the Democrats say that they want some more time to look things over.
That's right. They probably want until, just a day after the election in 2020 to really get serious about this issue. But I'd like to take politics aside from this issue for one brief moment. Look at it as a negotiation. If we are the United States of America negotiating with two very powerful countries, Canada and Mexico, in regards to the trade allowance and the amount of money it brings to our communities, even locally as it trickles down, we have to be very mindful that we lose strategic advantage in a negotiation if we don't, as they say, strike when the iron is hot. When you have infighting, it's almost like having two lawyers that don't agree on the same case, but they're fighting for the same client. You lose a lot of negotiation leverage because there's fighting behind the scenes. Whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, what really needs to happen is the United States of America needs to get together and understand this helps our community. There will be an opportunity cost. There will be temporarily higher costs for certain things. However, in the long term, it pays off incredible dividends for the United States of America. So to your point, you're exactly right. The infighting is there. It will continue. Unfortunately, it takes away some of the strategic advantage that we have as a country entering into these negotiations.
Because how much, you say let's take politics away from it, but I don't think that's possible right now. And especially because this does play into the immigration issue as well. Talk to that.
Well, absolutely. That's sort of a negotiation within a negotiation. So we have the United States, Canada, Mexico agreement. Every country names it differently, with their country being the first in the acronym. However, we have that. But we also have our national security issues. And as a border town in San Diego, we see it and we feel it. I encourage all of our viewers, as I've said before, to go on down to federal court or state court and listen to the types of cases that are being prosecuted, the types of items, drugs, fentanyl, and other items that are being brought in mass quantities from the Republic of Mexico. There's no doubt that that's where it's coming from. Now, it is true that we have an agreement with Mexico regarding current tariffs, but those current tariffs are not etched in stone. So President Trump has said, I want to be a little more microcosmic. I want to look at that specific relationship between the United States and Mexico on our border. What can I do to remedy that now? I don't want to wait for our Congress to ratify the U.S. Mexico-Canada agreement. I don't want to wait for all of that infighting. We have a dire need now. So what can I do? So we look at a negotiation within a negotiation. Well, Mexico, I just want you to know, I know that you want to be part of this agreement. I know Canada does as well. We, the United States, we want to be part of that agreement. But there's a problem you need to take care of. And lo and behold, what happened? The threat of the tariffs, not the tariffs themselves, but just the threat of the tariffs caused a 180 in the Republic of Mexico's way of looking at immigration. And while it's not an absolute closing of the faucet or the funnel, it has had incredibly, exponentially great results for illegal immigration into the United States of America and into the Republic of Mexico as well.
Yeah.
So do you think that, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, to your point, to Ginger's point where she was talking about not being able to separate politics from it, we have Border Patrol agents from the highest to the lowest ranking saying we have a crisis on this border.
Yes.
We are stretched beyond capacity. We need to do something.
Yes.
And we have a political party that's saying this is a manufactured crisis.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we're stuck in between.
Well, that's right. And I think it's very easy when you live in a multi-million-dollar home and you have a beautiful view and you look down at the commoners or the citizens that actually have to deal with these issues that illegal immigration, homelessness, deficits cause. It's very easy to take a political stance, and maybe in many ways I'm very glad that I'm not a politician because I can speak openly about this. I took a trip to San Francisco 2 weeks ago, and in that trip I was absolutely appalled. The same communities that I visited about 3 or 4 years ago have been dilapidated. You can't have a croissant and a nice cold-pressed coffee outside without having a risk of someone urinating or defecating just close by. It's absolutely, frankly, horrible and deplorable. I would encourage those politicians to really make a trip, to get in touch with the community, to go to our local courts, our local schools, talk to our teachers, talk to our law enforcement officers. I'm blessed in my role as a criminal defense attorney representing a lot of people who have a ton to lose, and I have this type of dialogue with the U.S. Attorney's Office, with federal agents, with local law enforcement day in and day out. And your rendition of your discussions with those higher up in the Border Patrol and Customs and Border Patrol is exactly spot on. Behind closed doors, you can amplify that sentiment by 10. And that's exactly what we're dealing with here in our southern border.
All right.
I think
Vikas
it's
Bajaj,
getting, yeah.
I wish we had 10, 15 more minutes, half hour. We could go on with this.
One of the most compelling things
Yes.
is, separate the politics. I don't know if that's going to happen, especially because it would give the president a win, so to speak.
And
That's right.
I think that's one reason they don't go to the border is because they would have to acknowledge it, and that would involve giving this administration a win in some way, probably, if they were to go along. They can't have that.
But hopefully they
You're
heard
absolutely
you.
right.
Separate the politics. Let's just do what's good for the nation.
Right, and if we
that?
talk about negotiation and we talk about what we can say the left and Nancy Pelosi is trying to do or step in the way of, those are threats with really no substance. Then we look at the Trump administration, and everything he has said and his administration has said is going to happen has happened. And it only hasn't happened because the opposing party or entity has said, we don't want it to happen.
Right.
So we look at effect versus selling wolf tickets to the community.
We are definitely going to continue this discussion. Vic, thank you so much for lending your
Always
insight.
great to see you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.
Thanks.
All right, there's more coming your way on Good Morning San Diego. Don't go anywhere.